It's the caliber everyone overlooks until they need it. Whether you're teaching a newbie to shoot, putting meat on the table, or prepping for the worst, the .22 long rifle may be the most important cartridge in your safe. Today we're breaking down how this tiny little round punches way above its weight and how it can serve you in ways no other caliber can. So buckle up. Hi everybody, welcome to LocaCarnivore. Glad you could join us. Today we're diving into the most underestimated tool in the gun world, the .22 long rifle. It's not just a beginner's round, it's a survival staple, a hunter's ally, and a teacher's best friend. We're going to break this video down into three sections. First is going to be dedicated to survival, the power and practicality of the .22. Then we're going to dive into its ability to hunt, and then we're going to talk about how it is such a useful tool for teaching new shooters and also just building your skill set. So make sure you stay with us all the way through the video. And at the end, we're going to have a section about what the .22 can't do. So you want to stay tuned for that as well. Hey, while you're at it, please give us a big like on the video. We'd appreciate that. We want you on the LocaCarnivore team. There's a lot of value in subscribing. You'll get notified of every single video that's coming out if you hit that notification bell icon. And we can't wait to have you on the team. First off, let's talk about using the .22 as a survival tool. And yeah, it kind of overlaps the hunting and all that sort of stuff, but it is an excellent survival tool. The .22 can do a lot more. It can accomplish a lot more than most people give it credit for. A lot of people just think, it's for plinking tin cans off the fence in the back 40 or teaching a kid how to shoot so they're not intimidated by the gun. You know, things like that. They just see it as that sort of a round. And the reality is it could be a very valuable survival tool. In fact, if you could have no other gun in your survival kit or in your bushcraft kit, a .22 would be the best choice, frankly. Now, is it very powerful? No, it's not terribly powerful. The most anemic centerfire cartridges are heads and shoulders above the power that the .22 unleashes. But the thing is, it is a very precise instrument, and most .22s are actually quite accurate. And a well-placed .22 can do marvelous things. In fact, back in the 1950s, there was a Canadian woman, a First Nations woman. She was 63 years old, a grandmother, and she killed a grizzly bear with a .22. She was out doing other types of hunting, and they came upon a grizz, and it was getting aggressive and coming at them. And she had a very good understanding of grizzly bear anatomy and knew exactly where to hit that animal in its skull, where the skull was weakest. And she put that round right where it needed to go, and that .22 stopped that bear cold in its tracks. Not recommending you take a .22 for anti-bear duty, for bear defense, but it is a very good weapon. It gives you an idea of, when properly applied with a proper skill set, just exactly what it can do for you. And that means you can also use it for self-defense. Is it optimal for self-defense? No. But a well-placed $22 is going to dissuade an assailant from continuing their assault on you very quickly, actually. So don't give up on this little gun. It is a fantastic little cartridge. And the nice thing is, it's very plentiful and it's cheap. I mean, you can get roughly 500 rounds of .22 long rifle ammunition for the price of 20 centerfire rounds. And I'm talking rifle rounds or even handgun rounds. And don't forget the .22 goes in a handgun. It's a spectacular handgun cartridge as well. It's great if you're running a trap line or anything like that. And it's also good just to have on you for general purposes like that. And if you need a bug out gun that's light and super portable and anybody in the family could be able to handle it, that .22 is going to be the way to go. And yeah, it doesn't have a lot of power. We just said it doesn't have a lot of power, but it has enough power. So when you're putting together your loadout for backcountry survival, you know, you've got maybe some traps and things like that. You've got all your fishing kit, all this sort of stuff to help feed yourself. Think about taking that .22, whether it's a rifle or a pistol. I would suggest a rifle, quite frankly, because they're still very light and very easy to carry. There's a number of them out there, and we're going to get into that in a little bit later. But keep in mind, that's just a fantastic gun to pair with all of your other stuff for the backcountry and just survival in general, especially if you're in a situation where you didn't have power for a while or something like that, or you had to, again, I think it's an excellent bug out gun. And frankly, if you want a good idea about what a good bug out rifle is and what you need in a bug out rifle, I did a video about that, coincidentally. Shameless self-promotion here. I'll put the link to that down in the description, and you can go watch that video at your convenience. But I do suggest you watch it because it's really informative. Also, if you're a homesteader, the 22 is fantastic. And yes, of course, I did yet another video about the guns you must own as a homesteader, one of which being the 22. I'll put the link to that in the description. You can go down and watch that, and I think you're going to find that very interesting as well. So for both bushcraft survival, backwoods survival, and for homesteading, fantastic round to have, that 22. It's indispensable in my opinion. And you know what else is indispensable? That's your support for our channel at our Patreon. The link's down in the description. Go over there, show us a little love. And while you're at it, go visit our website, LocaCarnivore.com. There's great content over there. Stuff you're not going to get on this channel per se, but it's going to really kind of broaden things out. There's a lot of fantastic articles there. And on top of that, if you want some of this great LocaCarnivore merchandise, you just click on the little store tab at the top of the screen when you're at the website, and you'll be into the store, and you can browse to your heart's content and help support us that way too. We really appreciate it. Hey, let's talk hunting and the 22. It's a fantastic cartridge for hunting, and small game is its forte, of course. I use this all the time. I've hunted rabbits. It's fantastic for like upland birds like grouse, and it's good on turkeys. Now remember, you got to put your shot where it counts, because they don't have a lot of power with these cartridges, so you have to make every shot count, which means that you're going to pay attention to your marksmanship skills, and you're also, very importantly, going to use camouflage and terrain and all the basic hunting skills to get close to the game, because close is really important, especially with the 22. Frankly, I wouldn't use it much beyond about 40 to 50 yards, but it's fantastic for like when you've got a grouse or a turkey that's hung up way out there that's maybe too far out for a shotgun. That 22 will anchor them really quick. And you just put on a nice little rifle with a little scope on it, like about 4 power is all you need, frankly, on a rimfire, and you're golden. It's lightweight, you can carry it all day, no matter what the terrain is, and it'll definitely put food on your table year-round. Because the nice thing is, in most jurisdictions, hunting small game, you might require a permit or something, but there's no generally defined season, which means in between big game seasons and things like that, you can still feed yourself with the 22. Fantastic choice. And the 22, like I said, is adequate for power. However, I think once you get into animals that weigh maybe more than about 10 pounds or so, the 22 gets, the long rifle at least, gets a little dicey on that. You might want to consider stepping up to the 22 Magnum. Yeah, that's a more expensive round. That's more recoil. They don't have a lot of recoil to begin with, but there is a little more recoil and definitely more muzzle blast, and it's louder. So you might want to think about that. So if you're really thinking about like doing a lot of coyote hunting or something like that, the 22 Magnum might be your better choice, and it gives you better reach. It'll anchor a coyote out to about 75 yards or so, 50, 75. But the regular 22 long rifle, it'll still do the job up close if you put the bullet where it belongs. Now there's several different types of ammunition for the 22 for hunting that I like to discuss and think about, and I've got some recommendations for you. First of all, you get the standard, just the round lead nose type stuff, the original loading, and that's okay. It'll definitely do the job. It's the cheapest, and it's certainly what you're going to use for practice most of the time and just general round use. Its downside is that it gets lead in the bore after a while, so you do have to clean the gun more frequently, even though the bullets are lubricated to supposedly reduce the fouling. It still gets a little lead fouling. The other thing I don't like about the regular lead bullet is in your small game, generally these bullets will pass right through, like on a grouse or a rabbit or something like that, but they do leave a little trail of lead in the meat, and you don't want to be eating lead if you can help it, so you kind of have to work your way around it. Now, how do you solve that? Well, in my opinion, that's with the copper-plated bullets, and I really like these bullets for hunting. They are my go-to for something that I'm going to shoot that I intend to eat. Now, if you're just doing pests and varmints like chipmunks and squirrels, and now you can eat squirrels, of course, and things like that, or marmots, stuff like that, skunks, whatever it might be. The regular lead is fine because you're not going to eat those, but the copper-plated ones I like because there's a lot less lead tracking in the meat. In fact, I generally find very little of that. So you can basically eat up all the way to the bullet hole, as they used to say. Nice idea. And then you've got either a solid or a hollow point. Now keep in mind, if you're hunting small game, the hollow points can be very dynamic. They really make large wounds. Frankly, I reserve the hollow points for larger pests that need to go down right away, and I don't want to use like a 22 Magnum with the more expense and the louder round and all that. So I'll use a hollow point generally for that. For stuff I intend to eat, as long as it's a fairly small animal like rabbit or grouse especially, I like the solids, the copper-plated solids, because they don't blow the animal up. You'd be surprised how you don't get a lot of meat on, say, a little tiny grouse or something like that. So using a hollow point, even a little destroyed meat, is a significant loss in the meal value of that animal. And you don't want to waste that meal value. That's why you're hunting in the first place, right? So I like the copper-plated solids for small game that I intend to eat. And then I reserve the hollow points for things that I have to make an emphatic impact on. Also, the hollow points, in my opinion, might be your better choice if you're having to use the round for self-defense. Again, it's not optimal for self-defense, but you can use it in a pinch. And in that case, I would use the hollow points. And there's now a lot of the manufacturers are coming out with lines of 22 ammunition specifically designed for self-defense. So you might want to look into those. Those are really probably your best bet if you have to use this round for self-defense. And it's not a bad round. The advantage of using it for self-defense is there's hardly any recoil. And if you've got somebody who's very recoil sensitive, or they've got problems with their wrist or their hand or something, they just cannot physically deal with it, that 22 might be the only choice they have. But if you know what you're doing and you're good with the gun under pressure, you're going to be able to defend yourself quite well, even with that 22. Now, small game hunting is not just an end in and of itself. It's also a fantastic way to keep your hunting and shooting skills up to snuff in between big game seasons. In fact, that's what I like to do in the off season, is small game hunting, because boy, that just keeps you sharp. And shooting these small, tiny creatures that can be really flighty, and they may only give you a very narrow, quick shot, especially like through some cover or something. Fantastic way to develop that skill set for when it counts and you're trying to, drop Mr. Deer or an elk or something like that. That will carry through and keep you sharp year-round. So definitely use your 22 year-round. Now, while we're on the subject of like pest control with the 22, it is really an invaluable tool, and that is because it's fairly quiet. A 22 long rifle's got a pretty good snap, especially if it's out of a shorter barrel. But if you get a subsonic round, or if you suppress the gun, if you have a suppressor, you're going to find that this is going to be a gun that's really stealthy. It's very quiet. You're not going to be advertising the fact that you're shooting or something. Now, make sure you're shooting where you can legally do it. I'm not advising that you use this to circumvent the law by any means. Do not do that. But where you're legally able to shoot, but you don't want to make a lot of fuss and bother, the 22 is your friend. Now, if you can't get subsonic ammo, or you don't have a suppressor, which is a lot of money and a lot of paperwork, your other alternative is to get what's called a CB round. And that's sort of it's a little more powerful than just a gallery round, but it's more subsonic. It's a slower round than a true subsonic round. Most subsonic rounds are like right at just below 1,000 feet per second, which is the sonic threshold at sea level. These are going to be about 800, 700 feet per second. So they're going to be extremely quiet and soft hitting. Now, don't use them on anything that's very large. These are things at best for squirrels and at very close range. So chipmunks, squirrels, things of that size. And you need to be within 10 yards or less, in my opinion, for a CB. The trajectory is not very supportive of long-range shooting. The thing basically drops like a rock. But get close in, and if you need quiet and you can't find subsonic, or you don't have a suppressor, the CB would be a good alternative for you. Something to think about. Now, the third thing that 22 is just fantastic at is training, as a training tool, teaching people how to shoot, including building your own skill set and maintaining your skill set. It's a fantastic way. First of all, like we said, the ammo is dirt cheap, relatively speaking, these days. So you can get lots of it, and you can shoot of a high volume. On top of that, you're not getting any significant recoil, hardly any recoil, actually. So that does not intimidate a new shooter, which is very good, and lets them focus on what you're trying to teach them as far as the fundamentals, like muzzle discipline and trigger control, breathing, sight picture, all those sorts of things. They can concentrate on that without having to worry about, is the gun going to bite them on the back end when they shoot it. So that's a really good way to go as far as training people. Now, keep in mind, it allows you, if you already know what you're doing, to continue to shoot year-round and keep that skill set going for not a lot of money and not a lot of fuss and bother. Plus, it's very quiet, as we said before. It's a really good alternative. Hey, welcome to our bonus section, our gear deep dive on 22s. Before we get rolling into that, though, I do want to ask you to share this video. It's very important because YouTube is trying once again to keep gun and hunting content off their platform as much as they possibly can do it. So if you share this video and share all the gun and hunting videos that you watch, make sure you share them with as many people as you can. That way, if YouTube sees that these videos have value and a lot of audience appeal, they'll keep us around for a lot longer, which means you get to see stuff like this and all your other favorite gun people. Now let's talk about 22s as far as the rifles and accessories and things like that. First and foremost, what kind of rifle should you get? Well, 22s come in all action types. You can get bolt action ones, semi-autos, pump actions, lever actions, anything you want. There's just a tremendous, every company that makes guns makes a 22. So it's just a matter of, do you like a particular brand or not? I'm not going to recommend necessarily that brand or that brand. However, I wanted you to take a special look at probably the most produced 22 in history, and that's the Ruger 1022. And it's got upsides and downsides. The upsides are it's a fantastic gun. They're super reliable. They're reasonably accurate. I mean, they're not noted as tack drivers, let's be honest, but at the ranges that you use a 22, they're more than adequate to get the job done. They are really good. And since they have a magazine that carries at least 10 rounds, that's the other thing about 22s. They usually have a high round count in their magazines, even if it's a bolt action or a lever action or something. 10, 15, even 20 rounds of ammo is very common. So you can load the gun and not have to worry about reloading and get a lot of shots off. And the 1022 or any of the semi-autos have a big advantage when you're hunting in that you've got a very quick follow-up shot should you need it. The 1022 has got tons of stuff out there for customization. You can do folding stocks, you can suppress them, you can put all manner of sight on them anymore. However, I do want to put in a word about sights. Yes, there's a lot of stuff out there. You can put an optic on, red dot, whatever you want. However, most 22s still come with open sights, iron sights, and that is an advantage, especially if you're teaching new shooters. I think it's very fundamental to their skills that they learn using open sights, using iron sights first, and then graduate to optics. I think if you start them out on optics right away, it creates lazy shooters that just don't have quite the skill set. And if the optic ever goes down or they happen to have to use a gun with iron sights, they're going to be clueless. So make sure that they start on those open sights first and then move into the optics. As far as optics, I mean, there's people that do long-range shooting with 22s, and that's great, in which case you'd want a variable power optic and first focal plane, all that wonderful stuff. But for your average shooter with your average 22, fixed power like 4 power would be fine, or you can get a inexpensive and lightweight 3-9 or something like that, 3-9 by 40. Those are fantastic choices. And red dots are super. I would get a small red dot though, like a 1 MOA, nothing more than a 2 MOA, because remember, you're generally going to be shooting small things, whether it's small bullseye targets or small animals. So you don't want that dot to cover everything up. You need a small enough dot. Or an illuminated crosshair reticle scope. You can get one of those. That would be a really great choice, especially when you're trying to pick out those pests when they're in the shade or something like that, or they're buried in a wood pile or something. That reticle, that illuminated reticle or red dot really makes them stand out. Really helps you do the job well. As far as bolt actions go, you can get there's a million of them out there. The old Marlins were super reliable. Those are good. You can get a lever action. The Henry makes really good 22s still. I don't know if Winchester's doing that anymore. I'd have to look into that. If you happen to know about that, go down in the comments. Let me know whether or not Winchester's still making a lever action 22. But the lever actions are superb, and that's going to be the fastest follow-up shot next to a semi-auto. Or you can go with a pump gun. There's still a lot of pumps out there, and those are fantastic. They're even better in some respects from a lever gun, in my opinion, because you don't have to break your firing grip to work the lever. You just keep working the pump. the forend, and you're golden. It really does not disturb your sight picture all that much, so you get right back on target very quickly with a pump gun. Something to think about. Now, what will a 22 not do? Let's take a look at that. We do have some limitations. Everything has its limits. Well, first of all, with all due respect to Bella Twin, who is the Cree woman who dropped that grizzly back in 1953, I told you about that a little earlier. With all due respect to her, it's not a prime choice for big game. It really isn't. Also, we said, yeah, in a pinch, or if it's the only thing you've got, you can use it for self-defense. You might as well give it a go, because by not defending yourself, you know what the consequences of that are going to be. So you might as well give it a go, even if it's just a 22. Properly placed, it can probably do the job for you, but it's not an optimal choice, and it's certainly not long-range defensive tool. Hey, what's your favorite 22 setup? Why don't you go ahead and drop that in the comments, let me know about it. I'd love to hear what you're using your 22 for. There you go. That's why the 22 is an underrated but indispensable tool for survival, hunting, and teaching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you got good information out of it. Thank you for taking your valuable time and spending it with us today at the LocaCarnivore. And always remember, never forget, Han shot first. Thanks for watching.